Welcome to this tutorial on how to win an argument by having a ton of good points. Now, have you ever been in this scenario? You're in an argument with a friend and you have a really good point to make, but all of a sudden you're feeling totally overwhelmed. They just have so many good arguments that they're throwing at you. Why is that the case? Well, think of when you've watched those court shows and in comes a big time lawyer and they've got a briefcase with them, right? Why? Well, because in that briefcase, you kind of assume they've got a ton of different arguments that they're going to make. That's the idea of creating a case. When you create a case, you're going to have a ton of arguments. I'm going to show you how. Okay, so when you make up your case, you don't just have one argument. Instead, you're going to have a series of arguments that tell a story. Now, what is the overview of how you do something like that? Well, you're going to have the following elements inside of a case. You're going to have inherency, harms, plan, advantages, impact, and then weighing. That's a lot of stuff. What do they all mean? Okay, let's start off first off with inherency. Now, in order to understand inherency, we got to step back for a moment. Let's talk a little bit about a term called the status quo. The status quo is what exists right now. Inherency is the problem in the status quo. We're going to talk about an example that demonstrates this. Right now, there are a lot of people who are saying that social media is a problem in our status quo. Sorry about that, all you Instagrammers, all you Snapchatters, all you TikTokers, all you Facebookers. Yeah, it's more for old people. But you get what I'm talking about. Social media right now is perceived as being a huge problem. Why? Because people are constantly scrolling on it all the time. That's the idea of inherency. Now, imagine for a moment that social media just kind of disappeared. Well, then there's no inherent problem, right? And the rest of my argument goes away. But we all kind of know that's not the case. So let's move on. So the second part is going to be harms. Just because there's a problem in the status quo, well, who really cares? What are the impacts or the negative effects of that problem? Social media is a really good example of that. Sure, people are always using social media, but why is it a big deal? Well, right now we're seeing a huge problem of loneliness and mental health, especially amongst young people. There seems to be a connection with the amount of time that people are spending on social media and this dramatic increase in overall loneliness and mental health issues, especially with anxiety. That's the idea of harm. The third element is the plan or the framework. And this one's really easy. All we have to do is have one sentence that tells us what action we're going to do to try to deal with the inherent problem that exists. So let's make up one right now. We're going to ban all social media for children ages 16 and less. Now, I know we don't really like that idea a whole lot, but just hold on for a second because we'll talk about that in a minute. Next off is solvency. So just because I have a plan doesn't mean it actually solves for the problem. In fact, this is the crux of our case. If we can't prove that we can't solve for the problem, then who really cares, right? Solvency demonstrates that we have a workable solution. Remember how our plan was the idea of we're going to basically get rid of social media for kids 16 and under? There's a good argument to make that that actually increases the use of social media. Why? Because now kids under the age of 16 are really curious and they want to go find out what they're being banned from. So we really need to make sure that whatever we're offering as a plan actually solves the problem. That then gets us to our advantages. So let's say we can solve the problem. Well, again, we would ask, so what? What are the advantages or the benefits we get off of this? Let's just say for a moment that we can ban social media for kids under the age of 16. What benefits would they get? Maybe reduced amounts of mental health problems, maybe reduced amounts of anxiety, maybe an increase in the amount of social relationships. But last off is impact. Even if we provide our solution, even if we have benefits, why should I care about this? Why is this such a big deal? And our impact could simply be that we increase mental health awareness and we increase mental health benefits for young people. And then last off is weighing. So any plan's going to have a problem, right? In fact, we could talk about one right now. If we ban social media for kids under the age of 16, you could say there are a lot of people out there that would lose their jobs. People who work for social media companies, influencers on YouTube, right? These people are going to lose their jobs. Why should we care? Well, we can make an overall statement. We can say, sure, I'm going to concede that there are people who lose their jobs, but it's far more important that young people's mental health is protected and we lose a few jobs in the economy. In fact, if anything, we're probably going to gain jobs in the long term, because if young people are in a better mental health state, they're going to be better workers in the long term, right? Okay, what are our big takeaways? First off, remember, you never want to provide one argument. You want to have a list of arguments. Second, you want to make that into a story, things that connect with each other. And third, you want to be able to weigh in the end. So how are you going to do all this? Well, you do it by having a ton of arguments in a case. See you in class.